Good morning, everybody. Welcome to my Creative Journey series on YouTube. And our series today, our episode today is a very, very inspirational, creative person who was a judge for the Great South African Bake Off. He's also the author of an incredible cookbook called Summer Food, a food consultant, and a private chef. So without further ado, I would love to welcome the enthusiastic, inspirational, and talented Tjaart Walraven. Welcome, Tjaart.
Hi, Rose, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate it. And Tjaart, the part of your journey that I found so inspirational was how you got onto the Great South African Bake Off. So would you like to share that to any other aspiring people who would love to be part of a food show like that?
Absolutely. Well, it's years of experience, I guess. I started growing herbs at 16, and that led me into the kitchen. From there, working for a very famous French chef, Raymond Blanc, and then onto a private chef, and then food consultancy. And, so it developed and, morphed into baking being quite a strong focus. And, right time, right place sometimes does help. And there I was, as, appointed as one of the judges on the Great South African Bake Off.
Yeah, what a privilege. When I think to have a role like that, you have to have, well, first of all, you've got to have, the skills to do the job. And like you said, lots of experience, exactly. Because when they examined the cake and the fluffiness and the lightness and the layers, I thought, oh my word, I'll just rather make Naila because it doesn't really matter. And so you've got to have those skills and the experience. But I think also you've got to have leadership skills and interpersonal skills. So how did that play a role, especially if there was maybe behind the cameras there was some dispute or people that were in a low state and feeling down because they'd had a bad day? And also, what did it feel like when you had to send one of your people home, one of the bakers home that you knew was talented but had had a bad day on that particular day?
Well, I think, it's a bake-off family. So, you've got the all the bakers themselves, and they create a sort of a group themselves, and they support each other. So, when chips are down, they're certainly there to encourage. We've also learned, as time progressed for the 3 seasons, as much as we are the big scary judges, supposedly, we're also there to give encouragement or to give ideas or, little hints, nothing directly, because obviously it is a competition, but, sort of keep that morale going, because it's very important that morale. And it's amazing when people walk into that tent, how things change. They change, everything changes, and all the pressures that go with it. And it is a reality show at the end of the day. So there's lots of moral support, which is fantastic in the Bake-Off family. And then, when it comes down to the judging point, you've got to put on your professional cap. You have a job, you have a task to do at the end of the day. And what I really loved about the Bake-Off format, it is what it is. There's no smoke and mirrors. We shoot as it is. You see what it is. At the end of the day, we as judges make that final decision of who goes home, and is purely based on the bake for that week and that week only. And yeah, you can say, are you gonna get emotional and all the rest of it? Well, we've got a job to do. And in the beginning, it sort of gives you a slight indication that, shame, this is somebody's life that you're dabbling with. You almost playing a godly role, in all due respect, with use of the word. And, you have people there that have got all the aspirations. Everyone believes they can win it. But at the end of the day, we've got to make a decision, and that's what our professionalism is brought into it, and we make the decision.
And Tjaart, very often, I love those shows. I love them. I'm a great foodie, and I love any cooking show. And I also like to observe the people. And would you agree with me that when you sent somebody home, they knew that they hadn't done a great job and kind of expected it?
Absolutely. I think, people, are quite aware of their surroundings. It's fact. You can look around and see what all your other fellow bakers did. You can gauge by the comments of what us as judges have done, the appearance. 85% of what we do in life, we judge by our eyes. So straight away, if a baker's not looking great, it's going to say something. But
Yeah.
yes, I mean, there are those bakes that might not look great, but the flavor or the taste of it is incredible. And, like all these sort of big reality shows out there in the food realm, taste is king. That really rules at the end of the day. But certainly with baking, I mean, you've got to make sure that visual is right as well. So,
Yeah.
back to your question, the bakers are quite aware themselves deep within if they really look at it as much as they don't want to, and it's a human nature thing, which I'm sure you
Yeah.
know all too well
Yeah.
in what you do. But yeah, there is always a little sort of bit of a nuance in you that it's like, well, this could be the end of the road for me.
But Tjaart, I agree with you. I think not only in baking, but also in food. So many years ago, I was a medical sales representative and I worked in the Free State
Mm.
and in Virginia. And then that's when I learned to speak Afrikaans. And in Virginia, which is a tiny little town, all the sales representatives would stay at a hotel that catered specifically for them, but it's these old hotels. And if you ordered a steak, you would get like an oblong platter, and the steak would hang over. They were so huge that they would
Oh
hang
wow,
over the
yeah,
plates, literally onto the tablecloth. So that put me off immediately, but the guys loved it. They tuck into that. But something like
yeah.
that would actually put me off eating it,
Oh no,
because
well, it's the
it's just
perception, isn't
there.
it?
Yeah, it's just there. Absolutely. Gosh, Tjaart, so would the great South African baker come back at any
Well, you
stage?
never. It's well. I hope it does. We've done 3 seasons of it, and very typical of a South African format. It does a couple of seasons, has a bit of a break, and has the potential to come back. And I hope so one day. So that
Yeah.
lies with the powers of the BBC, the production company, and I guess sponsors as well. So it's a whole combination
Yes.
that needs
Yeah.
to work. It was a very successful format, so yeah, let's wait and hope. Let's get this pandemic behind us, and
Yes.
let's hope maybe next year or the year after something comes of it. Who knows?
Okay. Exactly. Thank you, Tjaart. And then Tjaart, your book, Summer Food. I have made your masala from that book many times, and it is amazing. It is better than any bought masala. So what was your inspiration for that book? Because your recipes are simple, easy to follow, and yet so full of flavor.
No, absolutely. Well, I mean, first years I wanted to make the book accessible. That was the number one sort of rules, that anybody can pick it up, any sort of foodie level, be it novice, intermediate, advanced, and have a bit of a story that goes with it. So it was to make sure it was accessible, but then be able to sort of guide you and show you how to be creative or demystify a few of those things that we're all daunted by, such as a cheese souffle, for instance. It's actually one of the easiest things to do. And then bring in a slight bit of entertainment. And it was quite interesting actually when I proposed an idea was an entertainment book, and an entertainment book actually doesn't sell. Now, I think it's saying,
Wow.
people love to learn. I mean, we have all these, again, going quickly back to TV shows of where they talk about, you gotta cook, fresh to order, or it's going to be cooked last minute. I mean, no. I mean, most of our restaurants now that have decided to open up, lunch is pretty much ready. Vegetables are blanched, sometimes steaks are seared already. Everything's all prepped in advance. And I think that's, a fundamental point in cooking, and why, we don't enjoy it, or we have a dinner party and we end up spending 90% of our time in the kitchen, and so little time with our guests. But the idea of the book was to demystify those few things, tips and tricks of how to get ahead of things, but above all, just sort of create a book that reflects my journey of food, but also help people build up their confidence. And that's, again, relates into why it must be accessible at the end of the day.
Exactly. But what I also loved about your book were the photographs sitting outside, outdoors, on a long wooden table on a summer day under the trees, and just saying exactly what you're saying: chilled, relaxed, enjoying the
Yeah.
food, enjoying your friends, enjoying the environment. And that's what it's about.
It's very much so. It's about that whole experience. And I always talk about, be it any restaurant, any food retail outlet out there, these fast food giants and all the rest, they will have a relative experience, but you know what you're going to go in for. You know what the food's going to be like. You know what the price point's going to be like. You know what the ambiance is going to be like, and so on and so forth. And that relates back to at home as well, and if you can really produce some amazing food. The company you've chosen yourself. So if it's bad company, that's your own problem. But you know, so you've got your good company. Now it's giving you good food. I mean, certainly where I live in the winelands, we have incredible wine to celebrate. And of course, you know, we've got great weather as well. So with all of that, I mean, it's a recipe for absolute success. But that book is just a bit of a journey to help one be a little bit more confident. So your food tells a little bit more of a story as well.
Wow, very interesting. So entertaining. So I suppose the word entertaining is daunting.
Well, I think a lot of people, it is. A lot of people step away from it or try and avoid it. Or, you know, we know how to entertain, but in one form or another. You know, we all brought up very differently of how we entertain. You know, what are the rules and the regulations that there really should be, and there isn't really any. But I mean, we do have certain, well, call it standards. You know, that's society. It's how we are carved, how we made up in life. It's part of our upbringing as well. So all that comes into play. But again, you know, we don't have to make it expensive. We don't have to make it OTT. You can make something really beautiful very simply, be it the food, be it the deck on the table, be it your set and your location. You know, it's something we all have access to in one form or another.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And Tjaart, is there going to be a sequel to your book?
Well, you know, it's, again, it all goes on sales. You know, give it some time as well. You certainly, you know, I mean, it's as great as the book is. You know, there's the flip side. I mean, our sales unfortunately haven't been as great as they have been. The pandemic has certainly not helped. A few other challenges that I've had to endure as an individual with business and life has put things back. So look, it's not all glitz and glam, but at the same token, you know, on the flip side, you know, things do start to change around, and, you know, you start building up those building blocks. So yeah, I think there will be something, but I think a little bit longer than I anticipated. So not everything all works out, to be perfectly honest.
Exactly, and that's what makes life so interesting, because sometimes things that you don't plan work out so well, and you're absolutely amazed. So if anybody wants Tjaart's book, it's called Summer Food, and it is really easy and delicious. So thank you, Tjaart. Then Tjaart, the other thing is, now tell me about you working as a food consultant, and then
so
ultimately private chef. So would you like to tell me about that?
Yeah, so I've danced between the two, predominantly as a food consultant in the last probably 11, 12 years almost now. So it's been a lot of product development for retailers, hotels, restaurants, right across the board, not just on the food side, but, you know, from service to rooms to public spaces and so on and so forth. So it's been quite diverse in that sphere. And that's basically sort of creating concepts, creating ideas for businesses or for individuals that want to go into the food world. And then the private chefing, I've always dabbled in it. I've always done it. I mean, I did, you know, run the beginning of my early stages of my career of going to people's homes and cooking for them, be it for a one-night dinner party, be it for a weekend, be it for a week in their holiday house in Italy or Switzerland. And, you know, I've picked that back up again. You know, I used to travel extensively, and obviously with the pandemic, things have changed. And, you know, so people are traveling here. You know, the first people to really travel are the elite market, if you call it, those that can almost, you know, fly on the private jet, that they can, you know, create their own bubble. And, you know, quite recently, I've had a family to cook for and look after for 4 days, and it's been great fun to get back into the kitchen. You know, actually get a bit of DW40 on the old joints, and, you know, you'd be amazed at how rusty you can be.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so
exactly.
going into the private chefing, obviously a little bit more, and being a little bit more adaptive in the current market, which is what's important to everybody and every business, not just the food side, but in a multitude of spheres.
Yeah. And Tjaart, what is it? I mean, this would be for top end market, you know, to have a private chef for. So what is it like cooking in somebody else's home? I mean, what, you know, is it breakfast, lunch, supper, snacks, or how does it work? Do you consult them on what they eat? Do you do the shopping? How does that work?
Yeah, so it's basically, it's a whole package service at the end of the day. So we'll start with engaging with a client of what kind of sort of, food they like and what they don't like, what dietary requirements there are. So we start on that basis. And, once I've got information from a short questionnaire that I send out, do I then start, forming menus? And, sometimes I get, like very recently, I get carte blanche. They're like, Tjaart, get on with it. You
Awesome.
cook what you want to, which is wonderful. Then I'll put a whole menu together and basically a full proposal, and that gets submitted. And if it's something like for 4 days, it's a lot of food, a lot of menu planning, and it can be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it might be like sort of breakfast and dinner, and then. But again, you got to be careful. And quite recently, experience was, well, Tjaart, we need lunch as well. So okay, so you got to get that thrown into the
Backup plan.
mix.
Backup plan.
Absolutely. But like with anything, you have an expectation and you have an idea, and they have a perception and idea of what they like. And within the first day, you can really gauge of where they're at and how you sort of change things or manipulate things very slightly, not just to your advantage, but to their advantage and their experiences as well. And it's always very difficult. Everyone's foodies in this day and age. Everyone watches food shows. Everybody cooks. Everyone wants to write a cookbook or have their own blog and so on and so forth. So I must say it's challenging in a sense of how do you gauge of what level they're at. But everybody at the end of the day is pretty straightforward. They long for a steak. They long for chips or something like that. So believe it or not, a lot of time it's very simple. It becomes very interactive. They want to participate in as much as as you are going to participate in. So they want to get involved in helping cutting the vegetables or learning bits and pieces or tips and tricks and things like that. And that's what's quite fun about it. It becomes very social in that kind of environment. And I look back at 15 years ago, it was exceptionally rigid. Literally it's a white chef jacket. You walk in, you've seen but never heard. You serve and you disappear. Now you living in their home almost with them, and you've done all the shopping. You constantly asking them what do they want, what else can I get you, and you're cooking constantly in that space. But it becomes an extension of a home, and it's an extension of their home ultimately.
That is amazing. That is really incredible. So, Tjaart, I'm just thinking about COVID and how people are not going out now. A lot of people don't even want to shop. Have you had a demand? I mean, obviously you take all the safety precautions for COVID. I mean, I can just imagine if people had a birthday party or something they would want to celebrate, that you would be the ideal person.
Well, absolutely. I can adapt to whatever the needs are, and obviously, everyone follows the correct protocols now that we've got to adapt, and, you've got to work it according to your clients, so if you need to be all, masked up, to the tilt, and that's what it is. And you adapt into that, and same for any party, I'm flexible in that sense. It's not just a one night wonder kind of thing. There's lots more to it. So we create things, according to what the client that is paying for it at the end of the day that requires.
That is amazing. And Tjaart, how do people get hold of you if, they were interested in having a private chef, or, they want to get hold of your cookbook, so how can they contact you?
Yeah, so you got my website, Chef Tjaart, and Tjaart is TJAART. All my social media handles, Tjaart Walraven. So look out on all those social media platforms, from Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. You can drop me a message there. The website has a link into a form where you can fill in for any requests, and it's got all my other contact details on there. So yeah, just Google.
That's amazing.
And that's where everything pops up,
Nice and easy to remember. So Tjaart, there could be aspirational chefs watching this program and thinking, I want to do that. I want to do that. I want to write a book. I want to be on the Great Bake Off. I want to become a chef. I want to be a private chef, or I just want to become a chef. What tips would you give these aspiring chefs or aspiring private chefs? What advice would you give them?
Well, you got to go out there and start gaining experience, and keep cooking, keep working at it. I mean, it's a tough industry. It's populated certainly now with a lot of people having to recreate themselves in the food world. But you've got to persevere. You've got to change things accordingly as well, to suit the needs of clients, of the market, of where we're heading with the food trends and the fashion and so on and so forth. But yeah, to those that really are inspiring out there, keep working at it. Make sure you're diverse. You've got to diversify. You can't just sort of do one thing or just say, I'm just going to be a private chef. It's not working for a lot of people at the moment, or you're just a consultant or a restaurateur. You've got to diversify. And I think that's what's important and what's so good, because, if you can do a multitude of things, it spreads your load. The very famous old saying, don't put your eggs all into one basket. And I think this is a real sign to everybody out there. Don't just have one thing, especially in the food realm. Put your eggs in various baskets if you can, obviously. I think that's what you really need to aspire towards, is, spreading that workload, and make sure, everything is covering each other out, so you can work in the high times, but also you can get going in the tougher times.
In the tough times, like now. Tjaart, thank you so much. So guys, I think the takeout from this is, don't put your eggs in one basket, and work really hard and consistently and experiment. And yeah, so Tjaart, thank you so very, very, very much. And I look forward to your new cookbook when it does come out. And thank you for your time, and thank you for your inspirational words. And hopefully we can have a conversation again sometime. Thank you, Tjaart.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for having me. Thank you.